Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back to the channel. My name's Frank, and you're here because you want to start 3D printing some pretty cool stuff. For whatever reason, you're trying to get into the cosplay scene and you want to start 3D printing some of your own armor pieces, maybe even your full Iron Man suits or some really awesome swords and props. Whatever your motivation may be, in this video, I want to take you through a couple options and new 3D printers on the market to help you reach that goal. Let's take a look. Now guys, I'm serious, it doesn't matter why you're here. Maybe you're looking to just start 3D printing some helmets and you want to stop cutting them up. There are a lot of small printers on the market like the Ender-3s and all of that, but printing full-size helmets can be a little bit daunting on that, so maybe you're in the market for a larger printer. Maybe you saw some of these sweet Iron Man suits online, or you saw somebody's awesome Mjolnir armor from Halo, and you want to get into full-scale armor building by using a 3D printer. Or you just want to make really big, obnoxious things and you just don't want to chop this up into a billion pieces. Now, unfortunately, the only technology advancing faster than 3D printers right now is probably graphics cards. So every couple months there seems to be just a new printer, something new and hot on the block, and it's hard to keep up. But that's enough rambling. You're not here to look at my gross face. You want to look at some 3D printers. Okay, before we start, there are some printers I'm not going to talk about because they really don't apply to getting into larger prints and cosplay. These standard Ender-3 size printers. That's about a 235 by 235 by like 250 millimeter bed. It's not really a big build surface and it doesn't apply to this type of stuff. Yes, you can use these printers to print stuff like Iron Man suits or full scale props, but as you guys probably already know, you're gonna have to cut them up a lot more. So I'm not gonna be talking about the Bamboos and the Anchor Makes and the, the smaller printers. We're gonna kind of leave those maybe for another video, and I have a lot of opinions about the Bamboo P1P. I got one downstairs. It's awesome, but to a fault. So we're just gonna breeze right past these smaller scale printers and move on to something like the Sovol SV01 PRO. Now this printer kind of sits in its own weird little category. Actually, I need that. Yeah, so while these small printers are, like that's the size of my hands, and yes, you can fit some helmets on a printer like this, but it's really tricky. Like if I was to play my cards just right with scaling, I might be able to get a helmet on there, but we don't want to have to cut corners like that. The Sovol SV01 PRO has a slightly bigger build volume than these smaller standard desktop printers. It still feels like it's Ender-3 size, but the build volume is just oh so much bigger, and it gives you just a little bit more wiggle room and a lot more height as opposed to those other printers to start printing larger stuff in one piece. A printer like this can fit a Red Hood helmet just fine, and this is 100% scale, and trust me, I have a big head and I can print this in one shot on this thing. Why is everything falling apart on me? I swear I know what I'm doing. Now, while you typically don't print Iron Man helmets in one full shot, I mean, it's about the same size as that Red Hood helmet, you definitely have some playroom there. As for certain armor pieces, like you're not gonna be able to do full chest plates and full thighs and legs on this, but this is definitely a good starter. It's around the same price point as those smaller printers as it is, and it comes with a lot of awesome features, and it's gonna put you in the right direction. But enough about this small, boring, weak crud. We're not worried about this. We want bigger printers than this. Enter the Elegoo Neptune 3 Plus. This is the new kid on the block. Elegoo has attacked FDM printing again, and they have come out on top. This thing is an absolute behemoth. And this isn't even the biggest one they offer. So if you guys have spent any time doing some research prior to this, you might have already seen the Elegoo Neptune 3 line pop up. This is the standard Elegoo Neptune 3. It's new, it's great, but again, it's tiny, so we're not gonna worry about this guy. This is the Elegoo Neptune 3 Plus, and right now, currently, it is my go-to recommendation for getting into cosplay and armor building. Previously, I really liked the Creality CR-10 Pro V2. I've talked about it in length on multiple videos. However, they are very hard to come by now. Creality has basically discontinued making them, so now we have to find something new. Well, Elegoo very much paid attention to this, and they took all the features that made these printers popular, auto bed leveling and PEI sheets and bracing and just a bigger build volume, and they threw it into one printer and kept it under $400. The Pro V2s are almost $500 most of the time, and you can't even get those right now. Now, as of making this video, you also can't really get this printer. It's sold out so fast. I don't think Elegoo is ready for the reception that these printers got, but they are definitely new on the market. They're definitely gonna be coming back in stock, so if you are looking to get into this, this is absolutely a printer you wanna try to get your hands on. Assembly takes a couple minutes. It has a massive build volume. Like I said, it has all the features you're looking for. They didn't cram a bunch of stuff in this that you don't need or is confusing to use. It has a nice touchscreen interface. It doesn't have a big, footprint, even though it has a big build volume. And it's already been printing some really awesome armor pieces for me in great quality. So let's take a look at the size of this compared to those those really small Ender-3 size printers. Not bad. This gives you a lot more playroom. You can start fitting some pretty large armor pieces on this, and it's taller than most printers in this area and price range. It also comes equipped already with a direct drive extruder, so if you want to start printing flexible materials, TPU, flexible PLA, stuff like that, it's already ready to go. Now, if you're impatient and you can't find this on the market, if they're still hard to come by, there is an alternative for just a little bit more money. This is the Ender-3 MAX NEO. Now, the Ender-3 MAX definitely put a good dent in the market for just wanting a very simple, larger format printer, even though it kind of pushed out some of its own lines. I don't know what Creality was thinking with this, but it was a good addition to the market, and it was a lot cheaper than some of the larger format printers. Now, there's the Ender-3 MAX, there's the Ender-3 MAX NEO, there's probably another one by the time this video even posted, but this is about the same size as the Elegoo Neptune 3 Plus, and it gives you pretty much the same features. One of the main differences, however, is this is a Bowden tube style setup. Personally, I don't care about either of them. Direct drive, Bowden tube, they both print, and they're both good printers. But if you're really stuck on getting something with a direct drive, there is this option. You'll just have to find it. It doesn't have a PEI spring sheet. It has a glass bed, this ultra base glass bed, but once you get this bed dialed in with the filament, it sticks super well. My only complaint about this printer is that while it's printing, the main fan is a little bit louder than I probably would like. I can hear it in other rooms where something like the Elegoo is a lot quieter. But respectively speaking, they're both very quiet printers. That is just a standard in 3D printing now. Your printer should be quiet. Looking at you, Anchor Make. Both of these printers have about the same build size volume. I can do a full Dr. Fate helmet at 105% on this printer, and I can do some pretty tall, straight, sword or whatever cosplay prop prints on this thing. Having this much height in a printer like this definitely unlocks a lot more possibilities. You can start doing really big armor pieces, shoulder pads, forearms. It's not quite big enough to do a whole shin or thigh piece in one shot, but it's still pretty good. So if you can't find the Neptune 3 Plus, definitely look into the Ender-3 MAX NEO. It is a great option, a good build volume, and they're more readily available than I think the Plus right now. Okay, so we're down in my temporary print room because there is no way I am bringing both of these printers upstairs. This is where they're gonna live until the garage renovations are done. So I have behind me two pretty cool printers. I have the Elegoo Neptune 3 MAX. Yes, there's a Max version, there's a Pro version, a Plus version, and a Max version. It's like they paid attention to the market and hit all three things people were asking for. Would be great if some other companies started to do that. And sitting next to it is kind of its older brother that's more expensive. This is the Creality CR-10 MAX, and it is probably still to date one of the largest, best printers on the market. Sitting down here, I actually have a CR-10 S4. I did have a CR-10 S5, and they both can be a little tricky to use, and they're still both really expensive to buy, but the Creality CR-10 MAX hit all of those points. It had a nice textured bed, it had BL Touch, self-leveling and all of that, it had braces. It was a really good printer, but being at almost still $1,000, and like the Creality CR-10S Pro V2, oh my God, so many names, they are hard to find. I've been trying to find a second or third one to add to my print fleet for quite a while, but they're nearly untouchable. I think Elegoo saw a gap in that market as well, and that's why they put out the Max version of the Neptune 3. The Neptune 3 Max is 420 by 420 by 500, where the CR-10 Max is 450 by 450 by 470. So on the 3 Max, you're losing 30 millimeters on your X and Y, but you're gaining 30 back on your Z axis. Now, I don't have any really large one-shot prints for my CR-10 Max that I could bring down here and show you. They're all parts of my Iron Man suit up there, but both of these parts were printed on the Neptune 3 Max. Being able to do whole armor parts like full chest plates or back plates in one shot is awesome. However, it does come with a price. This print took almost 5 days, and this one took more than 5 days. Just because you can print big doesn't mean you always want to. While being able to do this is awesome, these printers were tied up for almost 5 days, and trust me, I know how to adjust settings and quality and support and all of that, and I tried to mitigate it as much as possible. I would not recommend either of these printers as your first printer. I really wouldn't even recommend them as your second printer. You're gonna wanna get something small like the Ender series or the Neptune series, a small printer to get your feet wet, start printing tiny stuff, then you get a second larger printer. You get the Pro V2, you get the Sovol SV01 PRO, you get something a little bit bigger, and then when you really want to take the dive and you fully understand how to print big, then you get one of these printers. I couldn't imagine having started off with one of these behemoths and having to wait days for a big print to finish. Yes, you can print small on them, that's great, but now you're grossly underutilizing the capabilities of this printer. And no, I'm not gonna go and print a set of fingers or a gauntlet on this massive printer. That's just gonna take forever, and it's just wasting its potential. Though I was able to do this entire backplate, no matter how I sliced it, it still used a buttload of support material. I was able to get it just over one whole roll of filament, which was fantastic. And there wasn't too much support waste, but a lot of the print time was just in supports. Whereas if I had just cut this backplate into 4 sections and put it on a smaller printer, it would have used nearly no supports. So you're trading that time and the money invested into the printer with post-processing. Then I'd have to weld the backplate back together, fuse it, sand it, do all that fun stuff. But you really need to weigh those costs. Do you want to have a printer that's this big sitting around that's only really getting utilized occasionally, or do you want a couple smaller printers and you'll have to cut up your models? It's not a big deal. So definitely consider these things when looking into these massive printers. What is amazing about this printer is it's under $500. I think it's 470 bucks right now. As a comparison, here's that original Ender-3 build plate volume versus what the Neptune 3 Max has to offer. And this other plate sitting behind the Neptune 3 Max bed, this is the CR-10 MAX bed. I have a flex sheet for it, I just never put it on. So you can see you're not losing too much build volume. Feature-wise, the 3 Max is just the 3 Plus, but bigger. It still has the flex plate, it still has a runout sensor, direct drive, rear Z bracing. It's a quiet printer, has some cool LEDs up top so you can watch your print when it's dark out. It's just an all-around good package. So if you're looking to move to the next step of really big volume printing, this Neptune 3 Max is just, it's a deal right now that cannot be beat. Now there's one more printer I do want to talk about, but it's a very niche printer and it's a little pricey. This right here is the Creality CR-30 conveyor belt printer. It literally prints infinitely long along, I believe this is the Y-axis, on a conveyor belt. Now, this 3D printer was originally designed for repetition. I want to print a benchy 1,000 times in a row. I don't know why you would ever want to do that. I'm not one to judge you, you do you. But theoretically, you can send the file and it prints a benchy, moves the conveyor belt, prints a benchy, and then eventually you just put a little box right at the end and you just have infinite benchies, or whatever the heck you want to print. Now, in the cosplay and prop community, a lot of people saw this printer and saw a great way to abuse it by just printing things really long in one shot. As the part gets to the end of the conveyor belt, it just moves off, and as long as you have a way to support it, and depending on how long it is, you really don't even need supports, it'll just keep going forever. If you've ever tried to 3D print a really big sword or prop, you know you're gonna have to weld the parts together. Now, sometimes there's pros and cons to this for strength reinforcement and positioning and layer adhesion and all of that, but if I had printed this sword on this belt printer, I could have done it in theoretically 1 piece, but I probably would have done it in 2, and it would have been able to print the entire thing in 1 long shot. Now again, this is a really niche specific thing for a $1,000 printer, so it's not gonna be in everybody's price range or budget. This is absolutely not somebody's first printer. Like I was talking about with the Maxes downstairs, this is like your 3rd, 4th, heck, this was like my 20th printer and I still had problems with it. Because it's a really specific niche thing, Creality didn't put a lot of work into this thing, and the aftermarket for it's died. There are a couple knockoffs and a couple other variations, and there are good Facebook groups to help you dial this thing in, but it is not as commonly used as something like an Ender-3. I just recently learned that there were a couple runs of this where I got one of the original runs with a really nice bed belt on it that was really sticky, but apparently some of the newer versions had a film or a grease on them, so prints just refused to stick. I just saw somebody on Instagram, he had to sand the belt down and get all those oils off in order to get it to adhere. This is a sheath to a katana that's in 1 piece. I was able to print this in 1 solid piece. Well, okay, I printed it in 2 pieces, I cut it down like this, put them flat, printed them, fused them together, but like this is 1 solid part. The same with this katana blade. This is just 1 long shot. I didn't need to weld anything. This is awesome. While you can definitely make swords and props look like 1 piece after you've welded them, it would have been much better to just go and one-shot this. Another small con of this printer is you do have to reconsider how you slice files. Support placement and overhang angles are drastically altered when dealing with this printer because it's not printing at, up top and bottom, it's printing at a 45-degree angle. So you really have to rethink about how you put files onto the bed. But unlike the CR-10 MAX or the Neptune 3 MAX, you can use this for small prints. You don't need to use it as a conveyor belt all the time. It's just a printer. So if you just need to print something and the supports allow it, you can just throw a print on this and call it a day. It is a slow printer and it does have a rather large build volume if you're gonna be using it for something like that. But you can mount them on the walls. Pooch over at Repcord has a bunch of these on his wall. Hopefully there's a picture here that I was able to find, and they just print stuff and it falls into a box. It's really cool. The only way I would recommend this printer to somebody is if you know you're gonna be using it and you have experience troubleshooting your 3D printer and you know how to level a bed and you understand what's going on here and what a good first layer looks like, because trust me, this thing was not easy to get running. But now that it's running, I have great plans for it. Now, before we wrap this video up, I totally understand that there are a lot more 3D printers on the market, but I promise you, I am in the Facebook groups, I'm on Discord, I'm on YouTube, and I'm paying attention to the printers people are having success with. There's printers like the Anycubic Cobra Max, which has been good for a lot of people, and even I recommended it in another video. And while it's good, I just like the Neptune 3 Plus better. So please remember, take everything I say with a grain of salt. Do more research on these printers and see if they're a good fit for you. But I can only go off of the experiences I had, and I've had some pretty good experiences with these printers. This is by no means a perfect hobby, and there is a learning curve. There are going to be frustrations, and especially when you start printing really big stuff, the level of failure does go up. So just remember to breathe, relax, check the Facebook groups, check Discord, ask for help because this community is wonderful. And lastly, if you guys had any comments, questions, concerns about anything you saw in this video or something I wasn't clear enough about, drop a comment down below. I read all of them and I do my best to respond to as many as possible. And if you like the content on the channel, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and ring the notification bell. This way you stay up to date on all the things I have coming out. We have new Iron Man suit builds and upgrades and other cosplays and Red Hood stuff and DC, and I cannot wait for the rest of the year and all of these conventions I have coming up. So stay tuned for all of that. If you want a small peek that is the chaos of my life, go check out this blog right here. It was a lot of fun to make, and it does outline a lot of the stuff I have coming up that hopefully you guys are excited for. I know I'm excited. I love making these videos, and I love teaching you guys about all of this awesome technology and how to make these really cool stuff at your home and house and on a budget, and I love it all. But that's enough of me rambling. As always, thank you so much for watching, guys. You have a good day. Who says PLA isn't flexible?